And when you say knock off, you mean the plaster on the walls?
Yeah, so the procedure is when we discover that there's damp, we take the plaster off the walls to a minimum of 1 metre up to 1.5 metres.
Okay, perfect. Next question. If I'm buying a property
Yeah.
and I am a newbie investor or
Yeah.
someone who doesn't have much experience, how do I spot damp in a house?
Damp isn't always easy spottable because when you tend to see it, it's really bad already.
Okay.
So a simple thing is just to pick up a moisture meter from a DIY store. If you're trying to do it yourself, not get a professional involved, a moisture meter will identify damp.
And I'll just tell you that if you don't get a professional involved, and if you don't get somebody from off a PCA register, you can do a postcode search, your area where you're buying your property, and you can get a contractor or an independent if you wanted to go down that route, and get a survey done. Find out what's wrong with your property, because not all damp is visible. There's loads of different types of damp. It's not just, again, it's not all damp's rising. There's different types. There's condensation issues, ventilation issues, sulfate salts, which we'll get onto in a minute, because he's got a chimney breast there that I know you can see. There's a big chimney breast as he's just sat sticking his belly out in front of it, and that chimney breast has had render guard gold mix of render with sand and cement, done textbook, lovely bit of plastering, that nice bit of scratching, no fault with that. And if that chimney breast inside's been wet, then sulfate salt contamination will have been on plaster, and it'll be on bricks as well. So what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to put a barrier system on, a waterproof system on. Now that to me looks as though he's just rendered it, scratched it, and he's going to skim it. So them sulfates are still going to be inside that chimney flue, and they're still going to be on that brickwork, and there's a chance that any moisture evaporating out of that wall will again put sulfate salts on that chimney breast.
What's the cost of a moisture meter?
That can be anywhere between £20 from Screwfix or B&Q to £500 for a professional one.
Hiya, Dan Sam here. Did you know, if you want to watch a full unedited version of this, if you become a damp fan, $2.99, which is as much as an expensive cup of coffee up here, you can watch a full unedited version of this. Nah, let's get back watching this bit, eh? See you in a bit. And fucking rest. £1,000 for £1,400 for a Protimeter Pro, whatever they call it. What have I got? Mine's years old, mine. But yeah, and listen, they still do the same job. So if you can interpret these readings, this is thing is being able to interpret these readings and patterns of damp. So I've got a dry zone damp meter where I just leave in van, but I've got like me bag with all my damp stuff in. I've got my Sherlock Holmes magnifying glass, and I've got what else have I got? Telescope. I've got a telescope that I use to look at chimneys and stuff. I've got everything in that bag. But like I said, I've got a meter where I just leave in van, which cost £19 off from Safeguard, a dry zone meter, and I have that just so I can interpret the meetings and readings if I've not gone on a full survey. So if somebody says to me, "Can you just check this?" I'll just get it out of the van and I'll check it. But I can look at what readings I'm getting from skirting up the wall, and I can see whether they're going up and down, and I can tell whether it's damp bridging and all that kind of thing. So if you know how to interpret the readings, you can use any moisture meter. Like I said, from £20 to £1,500. And listen, all them at 1,500, they're all singing, all dancing. So they'll tell you dew point, temperature, and and a lot of other stuff. So it's what your budget is. But again, if you don't know about damp, get a professional in. I don't know what word that is. A boy. Just get a damp professional in. I'm excited because I'm going on holiday tomorrow. So I'm excited.
Okay, and let's say that I've bought a moisture meter now.
Yep.
How do I use it as a newbie?
Dead easy.
He ain't fucking know. He don't fucking know. He's not qualified. He don't know. He don't know how to use it. Let's have a look. What's he gonna say?
Easy to use. It just comes with a battery. There's a little chart in there. Basically, it starts off green if the plasterwork hasn't got a lot of moisture in it. Amber is contaminated, and red is wet.
Okay, perfect.
So it's green if it's all right, amber if it's contaminated, and and red if it's wet. Fucking hell. What about readings? It comes with readings. So does he? So is that what he's saying? That when he goes to a job, he's put it on here as well. Contaminated with damp, yellow. Small level of damp if it's green. All right. Contaminated if it's yellow, and fucking wet if it's red. What a load of fucking bollocks. Listen, I like this guy. His surveys are alright. His free surveys are alright. Apart from, he don't know what he's on about. But you've got to be able to interpret readings. I'm taking into consideration that he's nervous. But what's happened is they've put this. This is where I've kind of lost a bit of respect because he's got. They've put this. They've actually put the. I could get away with him saying it and saying they were nervous and he's got his words wrong, but to say yellow is fucking contaminated. It's just. It couldn't be further from truth. It's the capacity meters. So when you put them on wall, if you hit metal, there's a charge goes between them. If you hit moisture, there's a charge goes between them, and depending on how much moisture there is, you'll get a reading. And the med for timber, all moisture meters are med for timber, so they can only be accurate on timber as far as a percentage. So when you're doing it on timber, it's wood moisture content, and there'll be a percentage, and you can go from 0 to 100, 0 to 100%. And what we're looking for is up to 20%. So out above 20%, your timbers are at risk. So when you're putting it on plaster, and this is the only thing that you would put it on, you won't put it on masonry, you put it on plaster, you interpret them readings from the timber readings. And when you write down these readings in a report, you have to put whether it's a moisture content reading, so whether it's timber, or you put whether it's a moisture equivalent reading. So it's wood moisture content or wood moisture equivalent. So them are readings that you put down. So if you're putting a percentage down, you put 20% wood moisture content if you're going into your skirting, and it comes up at that. If you put it in your plaster and it comes up at 20%, you'd put wood moisture equivalent because it's equivalent. And then you can move it up wall and then see what readings you get higher. And then when you've done courses, there's patterns of damp. So building research establishment have done patterns of damp, and they're recorded in different journals and stuff. And there's other companies that's done them. And these are general, and they're used by PCA, governments and things like that for white papers and stuff. And you can look at these patterns of damp, and then you can say what type of damp it is. But if you're experienced, you'll know. And I'm not saying he's not experienced, but for him to put this up on screen for people that's buying properties. That's just, it's just wrong information. It's wrong information. It shouldn't be up there, because there's 10,000 people there. If they're going to buy their own properties, they're looking at wrong information. So they're going to buy a moisture meter and they're going to be prodding walls and fucking stuff like that, and thinking that that's right. And again, this is why I do these videos, just to kind of put people right. I'm not wanting to, I'm not wanting to. I don't know. I'm looking for something to say here, because basically no fucker else is doing these videos to help people, so I'm gonna do them. So I'll put my head above parapet. I don't care. I've paid money. I've been on courses. I've got knowledge in my head. I can watch these videos. I can point you in the right fucking direction. So that's it. And if you don't fucking like it, use off button. Right. Let's get on with it. Hiya, it's Damp Sam here. I've just come on just to tell you that dampsam.com is now up and running. We've got the Express damp proofing system course, designed by me, run by me, done by me. You can buy that. We've got the ultimate guide to black mold and condensation. You can pay what you want for it. And we've also got 3 free ebooks. And also we've got a guide to basement conversions, the ultimate guide to damp proofing, and also the podcasting series. You can get in contact with them, and the YouTube membership. Enjoy it, rest of your film.
Now, all of this is based on newbies, because anyone who's experienced in this industry should know how to deal with it, or know to call someone like you. But
I have to take that back, mate. Yeah, so he's got a general grasp of, being able to put renders on and stuff like that, but I don't know. I would not call him a qualified expert, but obviously he needed to do a video, did Steve?
But again, if I'm a newbie and I buy the property and I don't treat it and it comes back again, what are the cost implications to me?
Yeah, the cost implications, the longer you leave it, the more it's going to cost, because it will spread.
Yeah.
It never rectifies itself. So the longer you leave it, the quicker you treat it, the less area you may have to do. The longer you leave it, the more area, which obviously becomes a bigger cost.
Okay, and treating it.
All I'll say is you've got to treat the cause. So damp is from a source of moisture, whether it's a source of moisture from the ground, rising damp, source of moisture that's penetrating, or from the roof at leaking water goods. Internal source of moisture, if you've got a cellar and it's full of water, that's added water vapor, added moisture, water vapor inside your property. A lack of adequate ventilation. If it's high ground level and you've got lateral damp, if it's sulfate salts, you've got a source of moisture. So obviously inside a chimney flue's become wet for some reason. That he said it what roofed into, so and maybe flashings, but inside a chimney will have become wet. And looking at that, you can see that the bottom of the chimney breast, is a real grey, silver grey colour, and further up the wall you go, it's a browner colour. And that tells me that there is some sulfate salts in there, and it still looks as though it might be still sulfate salt contaminated. And when they skim it, they might have issues. So it'd be nice to know what happened after they decorated and everything, and if they had any issues after.
Right, I bought a property, and I bought it.
Chimney breast. So again, if you look up top there, dried out, silver is out at bottom, still got some sulfate salts at top. Oh, is that still same bedroom? Yeah, it is. It's same bedroom. Cash
or mortgage or bridge, and I've had a survey done on it. And the survey comes back that the property's got damp and it's severe. It's the red 3, as it is in the home buyers reports. what would your advice be to me at that exact point before I parted with any money?
Well, to be fair, you won't be having him as a survey, because if you've had a home buyers survey done, their recommendations will be to get a PCA specialist surveyor to do a damp and timber report on it, and it'd be a paid survey. So it won't be Blackie Damp. It won't be them doing free surveys, because your bank would not borrow money on a property that's not had a proper survey by PCA registered company, and more are doing it. And I've not known any now that's not recommending PCA surveyors, because when you do that, when they have that work done, it's got to be a PCA registered contractor that does it and signs it off as well.
Yeah, my advice to that would be to basically get a damp-proof specialist out. Some come out for nothing and will do you a survey, and hopefully they get the job at the end of it. Some of your larger companies will charge you for an in-depth report.
All companies, if you value a surveyor has picked up on damp because he's gone round prodding his prodder in, you will have to have a damp survey and report done, and it will have to be somebody who's PCA registered, and they will charge you. They will not do it for free. We don't spend all this time studying and hour after hour sat looking at paperwork, taking exams, just to pass on our stuff for free on a survey. I know I do it on here, but not on a survey, because it takes hours. My hands end up fucking aching. I'm sure I'm getting repetitive strain injury with all typing I've done.
But I still think that would be the best thing to do.
Is there a cost for an in-depth report that you know of?
Yeah, locally in Lancashire and the Northwest, it can range anywhere between £85 to £130.
Load of bollocks.
Would you advise anybody who's buying a property that sees a report that has damp on there to still go ahead and buy it without having a report done?
It depends on how deep your pockets are.
Okay.
It don't fucking depend on how deep your pockets are at all. Because if you don't have a survey done, what'll happen is in 2-3 years' time, you could have issues. You might have dry rot in your basement, in your subfloor that you've not seen, or there's been no signs of. But an expert should be able to see these signs. You might end up with sulfate salts on your chimney breast that don't appear in summer. A surveyor will pick that up. They've got a protometer that's got a search mode on it, and you can pick salts up through the plaster and the masonry. So they've got all these different things. So you need to know what you're buying, and you need to know not what you're buying there and then, what's going to happen in 2 or 3 years' time. And if you don't, there will be loads of people on there that's bought properties, and they'll say, house that Jack built this, because they just wanted to get that property off at line and didn't have a survey done. And I'll tell you now that it's not 100 and fucking odd quid. Ours start at about 390, and this is now on date. So look at date, and they're starting at 390. And I know down at Midlands they're starting at like 450 to 490, and that's for your cheapest one, cheapest survey.
You know, if you think to yourself, right, it doesn't really matter, I've got the house for a bargain, I would proceed. But 99% of the time, I would say definitely get a survey done. Because if it's severe, it can cost upwards of £7,000 or £8,000
to rectify.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, different types of damp. You mentioned a couple of things earlier on. This wall behind us. So this wall was pretty severe, wasn't it?
This wall was very bad, yeah.
And can you explain to everybody what it was and why it looks like this today and what actually is on that wall, please?
Right, okay, so what's happened with this particular thing, this particular part of the house is there's been water ingress from the chimney and the gutterings and the fascias. There's been an awful lot of roof work done here. So what we've had to do is had to strip this wall back and we've had to put a 2-coat sand and cement onto it. And after we've done that, we've put a product in it called RenderGuard Gold, which is an anti-salt agent. and now this is ready for skimming.
To do this wall here,
So Render Guard Gold, like I said before, it goes into render. It's not an isolating additive. So if you've got sulfate salts on a chimney breast, they've got to be isolated because they will travel through wall and they're hygroscopic. They'll absorb moisture, and it's got to be an isolation system that goes on that chimney breast. Obviously, they've not done an isolation system, and if that, again, as well, I'm looking at it, it's not vented either, so they've not even vented chimney breast at bottom. You've got to make sure that chimney breast is not going to, moisture's not going to form inside, because if it gets wet, it's all that soot. Water will evaporate out, so water vapour will evaporate out through chimney breast, comes this way, and sulfate salts will form on moisture on the surface again and absorb moisture from air. So totally misdiagnosed that chimney breast and not done the correct system of repair. So, you know, if you're going to do that, it should have had a waterproofing slurry on top of that. That's what I'd have done, and then skimmed it. That back in the day, I want to do it now. There's easier systems. So we'd use a dry multiflex system on it, probably if plaster was sound, or we'd have stuck. If we'd have hacked it off, we'd have stuck insulated boards on with dry grip. So that'd have sorted it. Or we'd have put an isolating system on. So yeah, I'd like to know what happened after when they decorated it.